Have you ever dreamed about living in the country, maybe having a big garden or just spending some more time outdoors in nature? Maybe you want to get away from the hustle and bustle and just have that peaceful serenity that comes with living in that sort of lifestyle. Whatever your reason is, if you're considering making the switch from city to country living, then listen up, because there are some things that you might want to think about before you buy that piece of property. Hey, I'm Nadia, and today let's talk about buying acreage. And when I say acreage, I really just mean anything that isn't in a typical subdivision, a typical suburban lot. Now, you may be asking, where on earth did this come from? Don't you share recipe videos? Don't you share tips on growing food? Yes, I do, and this actually does tie in really well with that. Now, I've lived in lots of different styles of homes. I've lived in apartments, basement apartments, small houses, and now I'm on an acre and a half. So I do have some insight to share on some of the things that you might not realize when you're buying this property. So I'm going to share with you some insight in the buying process and then post-buying process that you might want to be aware of before you take that plunge and buy that acreage. So here goes, 8 things that you're going to want to know before you buy that acreage. So first off, when you are looking for this home, be prepared that it's probably going to take a little time. Unless you have a huge budget, like I'm talking, look at like double what you're probably paying for in a suburban area. Unless you're looking at prices that high, then know that this is going to take you some time. Moderately priced homes on land are few and far between. And when you do find them, they might not be in good shape. It did take us a year and a half to find the house that we're in now. I don't regret it a bit. I'm so happy we waited, but it took a long time and I didn't realize how patient we had to be, and we were lucky we got this house. And then while you're looking, know that you might come across some unusual homes. I remember we looked at one home and there was a balcony off of the main bedroom upstairs. Like, I wouldn't go near it. My realtor didn't go near it. I didn't go near it for fear of our lives. I thought I would have fallen right through the floor. I don't know what it is about acreages and people wanting to do so much themselves. I feel like there's a lot more DIY, and even in the home we're in now, we redid a bunch of things because it was all like DIY work and not really things that would sustain themselves long term unless we wanted to continue on sort of doing that whole DIY makeshift concept, and that's not really our thing. So be prepared to come up with some very unusual homes, pretty different than what you might be used to if you're looking at city homes. And then look at what is growing around you. It's not just the home, it's not just the property that you are considering, it's what's around you as well. So oftentimes people look at things like schools, school districts, they look at maybe proximity to stores that they like, restaurants, things like that. And some places that you might look at, and certainly some places that we looked at, were right beside big farms. So for me, growing organically, I wouldn't necessarily want to be right beside a big GMO field of soy, of corn, of wheat, whatever they're growing. Because not only do I not want to look at that, but I also know that there's going to be big tractors that are going to have the ones that you see, right? They have this, then they spray a lot, farms. So I don't want to get that drift onto my garden and onto my kids when they're playing outside because there's a big GMO field beside me. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be GMO. Any conventional farm could be doing this, but certainly I think very much so with a GMO or even vineyards. So if you live next to a potential vineyard, if it's a really big commercial one, they might even have planes that fly over top, and they spray. And that's definitely gonna have drift into your property unless you have a big buffer between you. So that was a definite no-no for me. And then you wanna obviously think about how far you're willing to travel. So do you have a full-time job? Do you commute? If you do, you wanna think about what this extra distance is gonna give you. Now, you may, like where we live, I'm only a few minutes from the city, from the main city borders. Like I could walk to subdivisions. I'm just on the outskirts. So it's not huge inconvenience for me where I live, but not all homes are like this. Sometimes you're half an hour away or an hour away from the city and you need to do that commute. And especially in the winter, if you have snow in the winter, if you have difficult driving conditions in the winter, know that it's going to take you a lot longer to get from there than it would if you lived in the city, because those roads aren't going to be plowed as much and it's going to be harder to drive sometimes. And then think long and hard about why you want to move to this property. And I think that that's important to do for all aspects of our lives. Really, we should be thinking about why we make any decision that we make in life, but certainly a big one like this, because it's not easy to undo a big home purchase like this. So decide, what is your big reason? Why do you want to do this? And for me, it was about the gardens. I really wanted to have fruit trees. I wanted to have a big market garden where I could sell at farmers markets if I wanted to, which I did for a little while. I wanted a place for my kids to play. I wanted a nice big patio to have friends and dinners and things like that. So I thought about my why. But what happens if I change my mind? What happens if I get really busy and I can't take care of these gardens anymore? My lifestyle just doesn't support it. If you change your mind, is the home still gonna work for you? Because if it's not, then are you okay with moving? So just think it through. If you're looking at a big property, like 5 acres, 10 acres more, then really decide, are you gonna be okay with this if you decide not to do the thing that you're wanting to do when you buy the property? And then one thing that I didn't really think about the significance of was that we don't have any sidewalks where we live, and where you are, there might not be either. Now, depending on where you live, it might be a really quiet country road. I don't know where you're obviously looking, but we live on a street that has a fair amount of traffic, and people are going 60, 70, 80 kilometers an hour down this street. It's not busy, but it's busy enough that I would not let my kids, at least certainly for many years, walk on this road. Now, I do see people jogging and I see people biking and things like that, but they're adults. So for me, with my kids, that was tricky, because I like to go for walks, and there are beautiful trails around here, but I can't get from my house to the trail without going on a busy road. And I don't want to do that with 2 little kids. So think about if that's important to you or not. You may have sidewalks where you're looking at, but if you don't, then are you okay with having to drive everywhere? And then the one that really caught me off guard was the cell and internet service out here. Holy cow, it is slow. First of all, there's barely any cell reception. So I ended up having to get a landline. But internet, holy cow, it is slow. So this video, I don't know how long it'll be, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I don't know. But it's probably gonna take me 24 hours to upload it. No joke. It is painfully slow. So download speed, not so bad, but upload. So depending on what you do for work or what you do for pleasure, whatever, if you need any sort of decent internet, you might not be able to get it. And this is not the kind of thing that you can necessarily throw money or throw time at to be able to fix. Now, after you've moved into the property, there's still gonna be some things that might throw you off guard. And those are that you're not on city services anymore. You may get lucky where you live or where you're looking at buying that has sewer and that has city water. If it does, awesome. Now, people are probably gonna disagree with me on that. Some people love the idea of being off the grid. I don't, because it's a huge hassle to have to worry about calling in a truck every couple of weeks to bring water to my house, because it's not like I can turn on the water and an endless flow comes through. I have tanks pretty much underneath the ground, which is called a cistern if you don't know. So cistern or well is probably gonna be your water source. If you have a cistern, you have to call someone to come and bring water however often you need it. And you have to monitor how often you need it. So it's not like, oh, every 3 weeks I call them, or every 4 weeks I call, or every 2 months, whatever. I call and get water delivery. It depends how often you're using it. It depends on the frequency. So you have 2 choices. Either you can take a stick, which was the recommendation that we got when we moved here. You take a stick and you put it into the cistern, like the underground cistern, and you say, okay, there's this much water on the stick. That's how much water I have left. Okay, I have, I don't know, give or take 4 days until we run out. Let's call someone. So you have to be on top of it. Or you can buy like meters that you can put in there, and someone has to come and install it. Now either way, you still have to actively call someone every time you want delivery. And then the other is very applicable for you if you want to have a garden on your property. If you don't have sewer services, you're probably going to be on a septic. The septic is where your waste goes. So, because, you know, when you flush the toilet, when you do laundry, when you take a shower, there's water, there's waste that has to go somewhere. And it's not going out to the city because you don't have city services. So it has to be contained somewhere on your property. So there are tanks that are underneath the ground somewhere in your yard that hold the solid waste. But the liquid, that has to go somewhere. So it goes out into a field on your property that is your septic bed, or leach field, sometimes it's called that. And that's where all the water goes. So know where that is on the property, because that can be a big factor for you if you want to have a garden, because I strongly recommend that you don't plant on that bed. By the way, I just want to say before I wrap up, if you are considering planting your garden, stay tuned because I have something super exciting coming in the next couple of months that's going to help you do that with ease, and it's such a fun tool that you're going to love to use if you love designing and planting gardens and growing your own food. So stick around for that, hit subscribe, and you'll see what's coming up in the next couple of months. So that was my intent of this video, is to give you some additional insight before you make this real life-changing decision. If this is the direction that you want to go, awesome, do it. Just really think about some of the things that I talked about today if you haven't already. If you already have, you are awesome, you are good to go, and I think you're gonna love it. Now, if you have anything else that you want to share, if there's something you think I missed that, you know, you're like, people should know this as well, definitely leave a comment down below, because everyone that's watching this video will find value in that insight that you have to share. So I'd love to hear if you have anything else, or if there's just something that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. Let me know as well. I'd love to hear what that's like for you, and tell me, you know, if you do end up buying the house, you know, share it. So I hope this helped you. I hope you found some insight from some of these tips that I provided. And if you do end up going that direction, I wish you all the best in your journey. It is a very cool lifestyle to live, and definitely keep in touch and let me know how that goes. But that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great week.